If you love coaches, then this show is for you. Welcome in to Football Takeover YouTube show. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody. Episode 30 of the Football Takeover YouTube show. And today is all about the coaches, especially in college football. Now, we'll do one in the NFL down the road because the coaching carousel starts spinning and spinning and spinning. And sometimes it's the NFL that drives it, sometimes the colleges. It's going to be interesting to see how a lot of these things break out, but we're going to talk about a lot of them. We know in the NFL that the Panthers fired Frank Reich earlier this week. We know that the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels a few weeks ago. There are a lot of coaches on the hot seat, including the greatest of all time, Bill Belichick up in New England. So there's going to be a lot of continued carousel spinning and moving and shucking and jiving. But the transfer portal, NIL, all that kind of stuff could really kind of separate the two. That any changes in the NFL, stay in the NFL, any changes in college, stay in college. But we'll see. Maybe a Lincoln Riley wants to jump to the NFL if somebody's interested. But as of today, we just have those two, and nothing's really going to be done about that in the NFL for a while. What's being done in college, let's dive in. Some of the things I've heard, especially locally, some of the things that have already happened, give you my thoughts and my grades. Let's start with Michigan State. Sparty went out and got former Oregon State quarterback, former Oregon State coach, Jonathan Smith. Now, I had mentioned the Oregon State part of this and the connection to him being a player, the fact that he left his alma mater to go to Michigan State, which tells you a little something about how things are out west with the Pac-2 and the Mount West and all that. Either way, Michigan State let Mel Tucker go middle of the season. Some of the things that had happened with Brenda Tracy, ironically, who went to Oregon State. And at that point, he is fired. He is let go. Oregon State's head coach, Jonathan Smith, goes to Michigan State. Look, I think this is a solid hire for Michigan State. I think that job in the Big Ten, and once you add in the 4 West Coast schools, and Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan State's probably, to be honest, a kind of middle of the pack job. And I think Jonathan Smith's a really solid football coach. He had a really good football team at Oregon State, and obviously all the politics and everything off the field. I give this a solid B+ for Michigan State to get Jonathan Smith there. Doesn't have really any ties to the Big Ten that I know of. So there's going to be learning the conference, all that kind of stuff. But you're coming into the conference, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, you're already behind them. UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon coming over. You're behind most of them as well. So you're talking about 7th, 8th, 9th at best job there in the Big Ten. And I think getting a guy like Jonathan Smith is going to help raise Sparty's profile. And again, you have to then weather the storm of the transfer portal. I've already seen a couple of quarterbacks. One, Michigan State quarterback, whose name escapes me, and I'm sorry about that, but he was from Westland High School, where my buddy was the assistant principal for a long time, maybe principal. He coached basketball, Joel Dunn. But he was a quarterback there. Oregon State didn't give him the time of day, so he ended up going to Michigan State, and then Jonathan Smith goes to Michigan State. Now, I can personally 100% speak to something like that situation. It can work out. Trust me, it can work out. Even at the beginning, if there's friction, it can work out. Trust me. I transferred from one school where I cut a kid from the baseball team as a sophomore. I went to another school. He ended up playing football for me for 3 years, and by the end of it, I would have done anything for that kid, and I think the feeling was mutual. So it can work out. It's just a matter of with the transfer portal, it makes that much easier to not work out. But we'll see. But Michigan State, solid B+. Now, with Oregon State open, they decided to stay in-house, which I'm not surprised. They went with defensive coordinator Trent Bray. Now, Bray apparently got up at his press conference and said, yeah, I'm going to be away from the team for a while, so interim coach is going to be such and such. It was like, whoa. Yeah, they just hired you. You're a defensive coordinator. What are you doing? Oh, no, he's going to go off and put his staff together and recruit. So essentially, who's there now? What he is saying, you don't matter, because I'm going to get a fresh batch of coaches and recruits. I wanted to hit something. When you take on the job as the head coach, especially at your alma mater, you coach the bowl game, you kiss the babies, you shake the hands, you do everything possible. And oh, by the way, then you put your staff together, then you work on the recruiting. It's already kind of a mess with Oregon State and Washington State and all that's going on and what's going to happen. No one knows. So I understand he's got to recruit hard. I get it. That decision, bad, bad, bad. I do not like that decision. Well, what if he wants to give the interim coach some opportunity as head coach, and that can help his cause, down the road? Yeah, maybe. But I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I can only imagine with John Smith leaving, Beavers players looking at, man, everything's changing in this conference, and now we got to change coaches. But then you walk in, Trent Bray, and you're like, hey, man, I'm the new head coach. How y'all feel? Like, yay, all right. But I'm not coaching the bowl game, and I'm going to be away for a while. What? It makes no sense. Oregon State, higher. I mean, it was going to be no better than a C+ anyways. But Bray treating it like this, I'm going to give this a C-, D+ for Oregon State. Texas A&M ends up with Mike Elko. The morning that Jimbo Fisher was fired, we were in Cincinnati. And I texted David Nunia. I said, it's Elko, right? Well, his name will be in it. But it's Elko, right? Elko was the first guy I thought of. It felt like that was a guy that had a lot of ties to people, and everybody loved him when he was defensive coordinator. He's New Jerseyan, but really kind of grasped on to the state of Texas A&M, kind of knows where the bodies are buried, if you will, at A&M. But they wanted Mark Stoops. So here's what I've understood about the Mark Stoops situation, talking to people around and listening to people that know things, my man Billy Lucci on top of it, that Mark Stoops was really the guy that A&M AD Ross Bjork wanted. And apparently word got out. He never had an agreement with the Board of Trustees, apparently. Board of Trustees not real pleased with that decision, didn't like Mark Stoops, didn't want Mark Stoops. Maybe it was one person, maybe it was 10 people, don't know. But it was at that point where they said, no, we're not, this is not something we really want to do. Stoops decides at that point, okay, well, I'm going back to Kentucky. And then the full-on sprint went after Mike Elko at Texas A&M. That was kind of my gut reaction to what was going on Saturday. That turned into Mike Elko on Sunday. But I think that Aggies, for however you want to look at that, how janky it was, whatever, Aggies got there. I feel like this to me is an A- higher, because I think this is someone that's familiar with the Aggies. I think that's got to be part of it. Just being familiar with that program, being able to recruit. Obviously, his New Jersey connections brought in players from New Jersey. I think they'll continue to do that. I think Elko is a really good recruiter. I think he's going to be a really good head coach at A&M. He's a great head coach at Duke. But I think it's an A- higher for A&M. I actually really like Elko and like this hire. I like Stoops too. I don't think they would have gone wrong with either one, to be honest. I feel like Mark Stoops would have been a really good hire. I think Mark Stoops has coached his butt off at Kentucky. So I think either one of them would have been a really good hire. I just thought Elko was the guy all along. And they eventually got there. Now, that leaves Duke open, which is going to have to deal with Riley Leonard leaving and going to a different school, not the NFL. Apparently, he's going to the transfer portal. Now, he might change his mind and decide that the NFL is where he's going to go. But I've seen a number of quarterbacks out in transfer portal already. Will Howard at Kansas State, Riley Leonard at Duke, amongst others. Those are the two probably at the top of the list right now. So you're going to that Duke job without Riley Leonard. So how good is the Duke job? Well, names you're hearing: Kurt Cignetti at James Madison. Jason Garrett was in the mix for the job a few years ago. I wonder if they would go back to that. A Princeton man obviously knows how it goes at an academically driven school, but how you merge an academically driven school with NIL and transfer portal, that's going to be tough. So Jason Garrett's name has been heard. I'll throw one name out, and I'm not doing this because I think he should have it, would have it, should get it, whatever. But Bill O'Brien spent some years there as offensive coordinator. That, to me, is the type of job that I think would be perfect for Bill right now. I think the Patriots ship is sinking. I don't know where Belichick will go. I don't know if it makes sense for Bill to go with them. I don't know. But Duke, a place that he knows, wasn't ultimately successful at Duke because they won a lot of games. So as offensive coordinator did a decent job. And I do feel like there are some people in Durham that do like Bill O'Brien. So maybe Bill O'Brien gets on that. Maybe not. Maybe Bill stays in the NFL. We'll see. I don't mind it either way. But Duke, I think, is a decent job. But the ACC getting richer. You bring Stanford over. You're bringing SMU over. SMU's become a really, really good program. And then you're always fighting behind Florida State, Clemson. North Carolina has been very good. Duke's got kind of an uphill climb, especially because I thought it's a basketball school. But names like Cignetti in that job, Willie Fritz has been brought up, although I don't think that's the great one for him. Jamie Chadwell at Liberty. That's another one to watch. I mean, he just got to Liberty from Coastal Carolina. I think Chadwell's a great coach. He's got Liberty undefeated going into the championship game this weekend against New Mexico State. But Jamie Chadwell's name has been out there for a lot of different jobs. A lot of different jobs. Okay, University of Houston right here in my hometown. And I know there have been names thrown out. Willie Fritz has been out there. I know Jeff Traylor from UTSA, who I think is a tremendous coach, is out there. I've gotten it from not one, not two, but three separate sources that the new head coach at the University of Houston will eventually be former TCU head coach Gary Patterson. Now, I've also talked to a few other people that are not totally happy about that decision, but that decision could be coming by the beginning of next week, that Gary Patterson will be announced as the head coach of the University of Houston. Now, as we saw with the A&M situation, things can change, etc., etc. But I've got it from three different sources in the city that I trust pretty much. That's going to be Gary Patterson at the University of Houston. And that is super intriguing to me because Gary Patterson has always struck me as, let me call my defensive ball plays and you can do everything else. So I felt like Gary Patterson would be a super sexy defensive coordinator hire somewhere. But he's going to be apparently the head coach of the University of Houston. So I'm really curious how this goes down. Now, there's no question Patterson can coach, man, no doubt. But coaches that were successful in the 2010s, 2000s, world's changed, man. This NIL transfer portal, if you use it right, it can be a really nice weapon. Use it wrong, and it can be a weapon used against you in some sense. So I'm curious to see if it does become Gary Patterson, but that's what I've heard from three separate sources right here in the city of Houston. Indiana's open. Tom Allen fired. I really like Tom Allen's approach. Love each other. Leo, love each other. Get that program going in the right direction. It didn't help him that Michael Penix Jr. couldn't stay healthy in his years at Indiana, and they really had to move on. I mean, it was best for both parties because he just couldn't stay healthy in Indiana. He goes on to Washington. Now he's a Heisman candidate. Apparently, Kurt Cignetti is in the running for that job at Indiana. I think Indiana would be wise to look at Sherrone Moore from Michigan, the interim head coach, who won 3 straight games down the stretch. Ohio State and Penn State included, one on the road, one at home. Sherrone Moore did a great job. He did a great job in that game of coaching mechanics, of doing some of the little things to go get a win against Ohio State. I felt like he managed the game extremely, extremely well, and his offense went and put 30 up on Ohio State. So Sherrone Moore would be a name I would love to get somewhere, and I think he deserves it. Now, he may want to stay at Michigan, which I understand, and wait for maybe a bigger job than Indiana. Indiana's a tough one. It's bottom third in the Big Ten right now. But Tom Allen did show, hey, you can win here. You get some of the right pieces. You get the 7-5. And look, the expectation is not that you go win national championships at Indiana. It's go get to a bowl game. Make the profile of the program that much higher and brighter. And I think a guy like Sherrone Moore could do that at Indiana. San Diego State, that job after Brady Hoke retired goes to Sean Lewis. I'm so happy for this. Here's why. I feel like Sean Lewis got absolutely bleeped at Colorado. He left the Kent State job, head coaching job, where he had won bowl games, he had won the conference. He had been a stud, superstar riser in the program. He goes to Colorado, and as soon as things went a little badly, as soon as Shedeur Sanders was getting sacked because he's holding the ball way too long, all of a sudden that's Sean Lewis's issue. And that's a problem to me. I hated that. He gets demoted. That was ridiculous. After 8 games, I was furious with that decision by Deion Sanders, who was named, SI Sports Person of the Year. Because why? They went 4-8? Really? Are we that hard? Like, what? What are we doing? Look, Deion should get some kudos for getting it from 1 win to 4 wins. But Carl Durrell won 5 wins, I think, in 21. Like, what? What are we doing here? It's ridiculous. So I was really excited and anxious to see where Lewis is going to end up. He goes to San Diego State. Mountain West Conference now kind of aligning with the 2 Pac-2 schools, Oregon State, Washington State. So I think the Mountain West is going to be one heck of a conference going forward. I think Sean Lewis, with his up-tempo program, his up-tempo offense, how creative it is, him running the show at San Diego State, I think he is going to be a hit for the California high schools. for kids that are leaving the state. They can go right down to San Diego State. I think this is going to end up being a good deal for everybody involved. I feel like this is A- higher for San Diego State, for Sean Lewis, former Kent State head coach. I'm not even going to talk about Colorado. I'm done with the Colorado thing for him. He got absolutely bleeped. Good luck, Dion. Hopefully you get it right. But I just felt this was absolutely terrible what happened to Sean Lewis. And I think it's great that he ends up at San Diego State. And that the powers that be at San Diego State saw through all that nonsense that was going on in Boulder and the good things that he did at Kent State and his previous stops. Syracuse offensive coordinator, etc. Sean Lewis going to San Diego State. Absolutely love it. Mississippi State hired Oklahoma offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby. Now, during the year, Oklahoma fans were ready to ship Lebby off anywhere. So at the end of the year, Oklahoma fans were still ready to ship Jeff Lebby off anywhere. Not to mention Oklahoma brought back Sean Luttrell, and they love that guy. So he's going to be taking over at OC. So Oklahoma was like, move on, Jeff Lebby. Now, the flip side of that is Mississippi State fans were carrying Zach Selman to AD on their arms for the hiring of Jeff Lebby. So it sounds like Mississippi State very happy with Jeff Lebby. Why? He'll run kind of a Art Briles, air raid, merging, whatever you want to call it, offense. That'll be exciting. It'll be up-tempo. It's what the Bulldogs fans got used to from when Leach stepped in. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. All in all, Lebby's got to do one thing. And he's got to... What's the right way of saying this? I know it's family, so it's hard. Any Briles cannot end up at Mississippi State. This has got to be Jeff Lebby's show. And there's a part of me that kind of hates to say that, but one of the things he ran into trouble with at Oklahoma was Art Briles ended up on the field after a game, and Oklahoma fans are like, whoa! And that kind of started the relationship sour, but Lebby knows offensive football. They go up-tempo. Egg Bowl, there might be 200 plays in that game when they meet up. So Jeff Lebby takes over Mississippi State. Like I said, it's about a C higher for me, but I guess Mississippi State got the guy they were looking for. And so for that, it kind of feels B- area, but I'm going to give it a C. Jeff Lebby's never been a head coach. Now he takes over a program that, I don't know if he got burned last year with Zach Arnett, but when Arnett took over, he basically bleep-canned all the offensive coaches, didn't want any of the Leach holdovers around, so it got to be a bad situation. So hopefully at least Lebby can maybe clean that up, soothe over some hard feelings, and get a coaching staff that's cohesive, and Mississippi State can get back to winning some games. Other jobs that are open, New Mexico's open after Danny Gonzalez is fired. I'd imagine they look over at New Mexico State and see Jerry Kill and what Jerry Kill's done with New Mexico State. They'll be looking for an experienced head coach there. UTEP job is open. Danny Dibble fired. I've never thought the UTEP job is a great one, to be honest. Boise State is open, and Boise State went on a run after Andy Avalos was fired and got to the Mountain West Conference Championship game against UNLV, where Barry Odom has done a heck of a job. Barry Odom would be a great head coach at the University of Houston as long as he brought along Brennan Marion. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, it sounds like Gary Patterson's going to take over that job. I think Barry Odom has done a whale of a job at UNLV. Who takes over Boise State? I'd keep an eye on what's happening with the Chargers, because if Brandon Staley gets fired, Kellen Moore becomes available. Is that the dream to bring back Kellen Moore, one of the great all-time players at Boise State? They went with an alum last time with Andy Avalos. Maybe Kellen Moore works. Maybe that's something I want to get away from. But Boise State open. Middle Tennessee, I called their game on Saturday. It was the last game of Rick Stockstill, 18 years there at Middle Tennessee. That job is now open. Eddie George is there in the state of Tennessee. He's been coaching at Tennessee State and HBCU. He's 15-15 overall record. Would that be a job that's attractive in Middle Tennessee? Would they be interested? Hard to say. Willie Simmons from FAMU is a name to watch here. He started his college coaching career after doing a GA job, after being in high school for a year at Middle Tennessee. Was there for about 4 or 5 years for Stockstill. Will that be a job that reaches out to Willie Simmons? He's done a tremendous job at FAMU, 64-24 at FAMU, which is really difficult to do at HBCU. So would Willie Simmons make sense at Middle Tennessee? Something to keep an eye on. Other names we talked about, Jamie Chadwell, Willie Fritz, Jeff Traylor, Florida State offensive coordinator Alex Atkins, Washington OC Ryan Grubbs. Those guys have all put together great coordinator or head coaching resumes. Their names have been bandied about in some of these jobs. I'd be curious to see how many NFL guys. I mentioned Bill O'Brien. Will there be any other NFL guys that end up getting an opportunity in his coaching carousel? I don't know. We'll see. But I know coaches and programs want to get settled before the December 4th date when portal opens and all hell breaks loose at that point. I think you want to be set as close as you can be to a staff and at least a head coach from that standpoint. So a lot of work ahead for these coaches. The coaching carousel continues to spin as always. Appreciate you guys for being here. I have more going on. Keys to the game going on this week. Championship previews. FootballTakeover.com. Make sure you're checking it out, man. It's a great stocking stuffer. Hey, look, you got FootballTakeover.com. You're getting all John Harris's draft stuff. You're getting all of his game breakdowns, bowl write-ups, all that kind of stuff. $2.99 a month, man. Tell me that isn't a great stocking stuffer. All right? And then my book, A Time's on Our Side. You go get it on Amazon. It's like $6.99, $8.99 if you want the paperback. In fact, I might give a few away for Christmas. I got a few up here that I might send to you, but we'll do that maybe later down the road. But it's a great stocking stuffer, FootballTakeover.com. I'm talking ball all 24/7, 365. So make sure you're checking it out. Appreciate you guys being here, watching the show. This means a lot to me, so I appreciate you being here. Hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving. You got the holiday season of Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, you got that coming up. So again, think holiday gift, footballtakeover.com. It's a great stocking stuffer, man. I'm telling you, you'll absolutely love it. Give it to a friend, give it to yourself, give it to your wife, because I know that the ladies love footballtakeover.com, llcoolfootballtakeover.com. Not LL Cool J, but either way, appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next time, and as always, thanks for watching.